Hello, I'm Robert Payton, and welcome to the 7 Seals, 7 Trumpets, and the 7 Bowls lie. The main problem with the 7 Seals, 7 Trumpets, 7 Bowl theory is that in between the 7 Seals and the 7 Trumpets is a small amount of time of 2,000 years. 2,000 years from the time that Christ opened the 7 seals, which was almost 2,000 years ago, between the 7 trumpets and 7 bowls. The other problem with the 7 trumpets and the 7 bowls is that they're not in this order. They are 7 plague angels. Each plague angel has 1 trumpet and 1 bowl. So there's only 7 plague angels, not 14 like you see in all these diagrams and all across the internet. There's only 7 plague angels. What's happening here is John saw a vision of these 7 plague angels receiving the 7 trumpets from God the Father in the tent of witness. And this is a vision of a future event. John was not teleported to the future to see what was going on. He saw it like we see a movie. A vision, it just opened up and there it was. He could see it, and then he'd turn and see another vision. So in Revelation chapter 8 and 9, in those separate visions, John saw, well, in Revelation chapter 8, John saw them receiving the trumpets. In Revelation chapter 6:15, John saw the 7 plague angels coming out and then going to the altar and receiving the 7 bowls. So if you put it together, it was one event. It was one part of the day where the 7 plague angels first received the 7 trumpets from God the Father up in the Holy of Holies, and then walked down out of the Holy of Holies with the tent of witness where God the Father was to the altar where Christ, I believe the angel is Christ there, is handing this 7 plague angels the 7 bowls. Let's go back to these 7 seals. Now, the book of Revelation is all about opening the scroll. Let's use this old calendar as a thing. The scroll looked like this. Revelation chapter 5 verse 1 says that it was double-sided. It had writing on the outside and the inside. So just like you can see information on here and a little bit of an outline of what's going on inside of here, it's the same thing of what the scroll was on the outside. It had 7 seals on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in Revelation chapter 6, you see Christ opening these seals, peeling away a little bit more, like he would peel away a little bit more information about what's going on inside, and and John was given a little bit more information of what was inside. So Revelation 5:1, it's a double-sided scroll. The information on the outside is what Christ told his disciples, because this scroll was written before, many years ago, after sin entered the garden. Before Christ come down to become the Son of Man, this scroll was written. And so it was always in God the Father's hand. A lot of the prophets saw it. And they, too, referenced things that they saw on the outside of the scroll. So Christ knows everything on the outside of the scroll. He studied it. Then he comes down to become the Son of Man. Gets his disciples. Fast forward, they're at the temple, and the disciples start talking about how marvelous the temple was. Jerusalem was like the major city in the world, and the temple was its heart of gold, apple of God's eye, whatever you want to call it. And they saw the scriptures and everything, and they're marveled over it. And Jesus says, I tell you the truth, not one stone will be left upon the other. So the disciples were like, oh my gosh, you knew all this is going to be destroyed. So They waited to the campfire that night and they asked Christ, when is this going to happen? And when are you supposed to be coming back? And what would be the time of the end? So Christ starts telling them everything he read knew about the outside of the scroll. That's why when you put Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, and Revelation chapter 6 side by side, it's all the same story. And it starts out with what they asked. When was the destruction of Jerusalem going to occur? And under the first four seals, what was written under the first four seals matches up with Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21 regarding the upcoming, it's in our past, but it was their upcoming destruction of Jerusalem. You got to put yourself in the same time they're in. All this stuff is not going to happen in our future. A lot of it's happened in our past, and the first five seals happened in our past. There's war. There's a guy coming who's the seventh king from Daniel chapter 11. A lot of churches say he's the Antichrist. It's supposed to be coming. Well, no, he was coming, but it was the seventh king from Daniel chapter 11 that was prophesied by Daniel many years before was going to come and destroy Jerusalem. So you got that under the first seal. Second seal is war. Third is famine. Fourth is death. Just like you were taught, that part's right. But it all happened to Jerusalem. It's in our past, not in our future. It's not in our future. Okay? And then the souls under the altar, the fifth seal. Souls under the altar. Okay, all those people that died in Jerusalem. The Jews. It's a Middle East book. Has nothing to do with the rest of the world. And all this stuff, prophecies, a lot of them are not in our future. They occurred in our past. However, you jump a little bit more to the sixth seal. When he peeled off the sixth seal, he said he saw the sun grow darker and the moon turns to blood. You find that in Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, all three books. So that's a starting point for you if you want to create a timeline. And you find out that after 2 days, after two times, and after the age of the Gentiles, then the sun will grow dark and the moon turns to blood. So you got the destruction of Jerusalem, and then you got 2,000 years. A day to God is 1,000 years to man. 2 days, 2,000 years. Time is 1,000 years. 2 times, 2,000 years. Age of the Gentiles, 2,000 years. So the destruction of Jerusalem, 2,000 years, and then the sun will grow dark and the moon turns to blood. Now let's back up about these 7 trumpets, 7 bowls. Again, Christ invited John up after he was resurrected. He invited John up sometime later to witness, so John could witness him being able to open that scroll that had been sealed for thousands of years. Everybody in heaven wanted to know. That's why in Revelation 8:1, it said there was silence in heaven for half an hour. So how long did it take Christ to open the scroll? How long did it take Christ to read the scroll? I'm sorry, not open the scroll. 1 hour. About half an hour, I'm sorry. Half an hour. So anybody has that question, it's a half an hour. Okay? And he opened that scroll 2,000 years ago. Almost 2,000 years ago. Okay? The seals were removed 2,000 years ago. So that's pretty much it. Now Christ opened the scroll. He knows the day and the hour now of his return. You got to look at the cross. Before the cross, Jesus didn't know the day or the hour. Only the Father knew. Just like he said, he did not lie. But since then, he has died on the cross, rose from the grave, opened the scroll of Revelation 2,000 years ago, which told him everything. And even the day and the hour of his return. So he does know, and he wants us to know Revelation chapter 1. Read it carefully. He brought John up there to have him write down, because God the Father wants everyone to know what is going to be going on, what is going to be happening. That's why he brought John up there to record everything. If God didn't want us to know, he wouldn't have brought John up there to record everything. He would have kept us in the dark. Okay? So he brings John up, Revelation chapter 4. He talks to John, Revelation 1, 2, and 3. He's writing down to the 7 churches of Asia Minor, which is, all them Kyrgyzstans and all them other churches around that area. Asia Minor, not Asia, not, China, Japan. So, and then chapter 4, he's taken up to heaven. He sees the 4 different types of angels surrounding God's throne with 24 elders. And then Revelation chapter 5, he sees the double-sided scroll. He finds out Christ is the only one worthy to open it, which is great. Revelation chapter 6, he opens 6 of the 7 seals and reveals what's underneath them. Revelation chapter 7, John is given a vision. He's given a vision of something that's going to occur. Now, the timing of Revelation chapter 7 is number of completion. It's the completion for God's people of everything. That all of Revelation chapter 7 is regarding our resurrection, where we go up to meet the Lord in the air. So then we start in Revelation chapter 8, which is the 7 trumpets. The angels, the 7 plague angels, receive their 7 trumpets from God the Father. In another vision, John then sees those same 7 angels coming out of the Holy of Holies with God the Father to the altar to receive the 7 bowls. Again, there's only 7 plague angels. They go by the order of their number. So when trumpet 1 is released, bowl 1 is released. Right after, they're a cause and effect. Cause and effect. Cause, or the result of the trumpet. The bowls are the result of the trumpets. The aftermath. Okay? So the first 4 trumpets are in Revelation chapter 8. Now, why are they only in chapter 8? Well, 8 is a new beginning. We just saw the resurrection of the church in chapter 7. 8 means a new beginning. These trumpets, this horrible stuff. There's multiple verses in God's word, and one of them was given to one of the 7 messianic churches, that God's plagues, God's wrath is not for his people. That's why we are taken up first. And if you're going to argue about the post-trib, mid-trib, pre-trib, there's no such thing as a 7-year tribulation in any of this. And I cover that in other ones. There's just no such thing. They created this horror nightmare to put an unhealthy fear of God into your heart, so you would possibly reject God as being vengeful and just going to live your life and do whatever and not follow God. Okay? Men have done this. Evil men have altered some of the words in our Bible as well. Especially regarding our resurrection. That's why we argue about the resurrection. If you would just slow down and look up these words, every verse regarding our resurrection in the book of Revelation, you're going to find out that these little key words that they changed, when you put the original definition in there, it's all going to come together like a little puzzle. And you're going to go like, oh my gosh, it's so easy. And that's why the book of Revelation is so simple, because it's supposed to be. God didn't write it just for, old men. He wrote it for children as well. Nothing is horrible in here that can't be taught to a child if it's taught correctly. And the worst part is these trumpets and bowl combinations, but it's against God's enemies, the evil people that God has despised, and they will get the wrath, because it's only on the whore of Babylon, which is a nation, and the Old Testament says the whore of Babylon is a nation within the Middle East, and that nation is the nation of the Chaldeans, and the Chaldeans back in the day is now present day Saudi Arabia. But don't fear, if Christians are there in Saudi Arabia, it can be full of Christians when Christ comes. They will all be taken up before these trumpets are released. So, anyway, but the trumpets of bowls go by the number. Trumpet 1, bowl 1. It's plague number 1. Plague number 2 is trumpet 2, bowl 2. Plague number 3 is trumpet 3, bowl 3. Plague number 4 is trumpet 4, bowl 4. So you get the first 4 plagues, trumpets and bowls, combinations, on the whore of Babylon. She's destroyed, Revelation 18. And then you got that lone eagle flying through midair. And if you're watching the series, you know all about the lone eagle. Okay, that's a breaking point. That's saying Christ has come. Those angels are saying the 3 woes, the 3 announcements from 3 angels in Revelation chapter 14. But before they sound their announcements to the world, flying across the globe, these are pretty big angels probably. We see in the beginning of Revelation 14, before the 3 woe angels are making their announcement, you see Christ in Jerusalem. And he's coming to set up, to begin preparations to set up his millennial reign. And that's it. He destroys the whore. He allows the whore to be destroyed. And then he comes to set up his millennial reign. And that's it. That's it. And once the millennial reign starts, which is a few feasts later, everything's on the feast. There's 9 feasts, but you can highlight really only the 7 that's most popular and figure all this out so simply. Our resurrection is on the Feast of Trumpets. The Day of Atonement, you find Christ in Jerusalem. And then you got the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot. Okay, that's when in Isaiah, you got to read Isaiah chapters 60 through 66 and chapter 34. And you find out that Christ commands tents to be built. Why? To receive all these people. He commands roads to be built. He commands that the people, all his people, the Jews, come that did not make it in the resurrection. He commands that they come back to Jerusalem from around the world. And they will come. Okay? It's after the millennial reign. After Christ, they have ruled and reigned over these people and showed them his love and mercy and what it would be like to be with him for those that didn't know him. Then Satan's released. When Satan's released, you got the next 5, the trumpet 5, bowl 5, plagues 5, 6, and 7. So you got the 5th trumpet and bowl, 6th trumpet and bowl, 7th trumpet and bowl. That occur close, not back to back, but there's a period of at least 5 months in between there. And what happens there is they just go out. The demonic goes out. It's going to be the worst 5 months in mankind's history for those people that choose to serve Satan. They will be deceived. They will split. There will be a split. And that 1/3 of mankind will follow Satan. And then Satan tortures them for 5 months. Then Satan demands they take a mark, his mark. That's when the 666 occurs, after the millennial reign. Yes, there's all kinds of crap in the world today. Everything can be called 666, including the computer you're looking at this through. It adds up to 666. But it's not the 666 of the Bible. Okay, you can find 666 in everything. But it's, it's not the Bible. Okay, the 666 belongs to the religion of the Antichrist. People. Okay, it's plural, it's not a person. And it is Satan's religion. They're against Christ. I almost shouldn't have even said Antichrist, because there's no such thing as an Antichrist. If you read the scriptures, the Antichrist is derived from the 7th king who destroyed Jerusalem back in 70 AD. The scriptures regarding Satan himself, while he's on earth today, he's been, after Jerusalem was destroyed almost 2,000 years ago, Satan was kicked out of heaven onto the earth, and he's with us today. He's been here. And he has his own horde. The wheat and the tares have grown up together. It's probably 50-50. Half of this planet is worshiping Satan. They're Luciferians. They're not worshiping God, but they keep it secret, and they do a lot of horrible things. I pray one day all of them will be destroyed. In preparation, I believe the world will become a better place as we get closer to Christ coming, because Christ is going to direct men to clean up this planet before he gets here. And he'll finish mopping up when he gets here. So, plague 5, plague 6, plague 7. When the last plague is done, a voice cries out from heaven, "It is done." It's probably God the Father. It is done. The 7 plagues have accomplished their mission, and their mission is to separate those that truly love God from those who don't want to love God. And then Satan gathers all his people and comes to attack Jerusalem. And that will be the battle at Armageddon, which is called Armageddon in the Bible. And yes, it is over 1,000 years in our future. Armageddon is not going to happen tomorrow. But you can't tell China that today because they're underwater. And a lot of nations around the world, including America, is suffering. But it's not Armageddon. It's a fight for freedom is what it is. So, that's the purpose of 7 plagues. Separate good from evil. And I've got other teachings that show this. Just please hit subscribe and tell your friends. Shoot it off to anybody, somebody. And I hope you enjoyed this. I got 2 free ebooks online on smashwords.com. If you're interested, you can. First one is Revelations of Grace and Mercy, the truest interpretation of the book of Revelation. The second one is the book of Revelation. It's so simple, and that one is only 40 pages, and that's the one that's going to knock your socks right there, because I prove there's no 7-year tribulation, no coming Antichrist. Global nuclear Armageddon is not in the scriptures. It's only on one nation in the Middle East. And there's just so much more that you've been taught that's not correct. And I believe it's that 50-50. I believe the Luciferians have infiltrated our church, altered our King James Bible, and they're holy and holy up there at that podium collecting all your money while your neighbor is starving. So wake up, people. Just wake up. Hope you enjoy the series and have a good day. And I'll see you on the next one.